Oh, hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Fake Nerds Watch, where I was definitely gonna intro this episode. Definitely prepared for that. Yo, guys, guess what? It's spooky season here in January. It is January. Spooky season all year round, baby. It's The Last of Us. Can you believe it? I actually kind of can't. Of all the video game adaptations that have been announced and died and the ones that we wished, like, I didn't think we'd get a Last of Us show, but here we are talking about it. And I'm joined with my friend Sparkz, as always.
Yes, happy to be here.
Happy to be here. And friend of the show, Phai. Thank you for being here, Phai.
Happy to be here as well.
He loves zombies. He talks about it every day. He just loves zombies. Hashtag zombies.
Toot.
Okay.
Yep.
So
can't stop.
We're doing this one. It's the three of us because we're all big fans of the video game.
True.
So we're coming together for this Fake Nerds Watch to talk about The Last of Us.
Although I do wish we had someone who hadn't played the games, because I do think that like having preconceived knowledge, I think like doesn't like hurt or benefit the show. Just like it would have been fun to have that perspective, because we all knew what we were getting into, kind of.
Right, exactly.
But it is fun to be here regardless.
And we might eventually have Brandon on this.
That'd be cool. That'd be great.
So, Phai, episode 1, when you're lost in the darkness, what are your initial feelings?
Honestly, it felt the best we've ever gotten close to perfection, in my opinion.
In terms of what?
In terms of like adapted material.
Yeah, okay.
It nailed like the core emotion of what made the first game, what made the story resonate so strongly, with that emotional beat. Are we cool to get into spoilers here? What's going on?
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll go for full spoilers, but just at this initial point, just your general reactions to the first episode.
Yeah, don't be talking about the ending or anything yet.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah,
that's what I mean.
Spoilers for this first episode. We will not talk about spoilers for the video game. We'll, you know what? I didn't think about that, but in the context of this, we'll talk about video game spoilers
later
at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
and we'll tell you when we're going to do that.
Yeah. This is for people who, hey, this is just a TV show to them.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great first episode.
I love it. I
love it.
I also had a great time. And by great time, I mean bad vibes all around. Very bad vibes. It's so interesting. Like all of the video game adaptations we've gotten, like a Mortal Kombat, a Tomb Raider, like a Silent Hill, like it's taking inspirations from the thing, but it's very loose with it. Like it's kind of like, we're gonna like Mortal Kombat, like tell its own story with all the fighting characters, right? This is just that game, and that was the only thing I was worried about initially. Was like that game's already narrative. That game is narrative. Like the opening sequence is literally like barely any gameplay. Like it's you on a track, which is again not a negative. That's just I'm saying what the game is. So as I'm rewatching it live action, it's just as compelling. It's just as thrilling. There are some points where I think it's even more effective because I don't have control of it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that gets me so much about this is like, yes, I know these story beats, but like me being hands off of it, it's almost like a new thing. Because I'm seeing it from all the different perspectives besides Joel's, which is really great, which is really cool. I think it's great. I in terms of adaptations, Phai, I agree. This might be one of the best in terms of like this is this thing and we're turning it into this thing. Like it's almost one for one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really, really like the episode. I think I'm really glad you touched on that point. That I think the way they're able to utilize tension because of the format of the medium is really working to their advantage in comparison to like when you're playing a video game. And it's different. It's a different kind of thing. The way that you're able to set up scenes, like certain beats now have to happen that they have to happen. They are scripted to happen in a way where you're not in control of it anymore. And that I do think creates a different experience with it. I really liked it. I really like a lot of the performances. I guess I'll touch on this right out of the gate, because you and I have talked about this outside of this beforehand about my one nervousness about the show, which is the casting of Pedro Pascal, because Pedro Pascal is just great. Made me nervous that we were going to get a more heroic type Joel,
I was also
rather than the selfish asshole
yes
that Joel is.
they would lighten them up. Yes.
And I'm a little still on the teetering on the edge of that even after the first episode
interesting. Okay.
because we're getting the very altruistic mission. I'm gonna go get Tommy mission,
but that's because it's his brother though,
right?
I mean,
and I get that. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's not a mission he's setting out for in the game.
No,
yeah,
I don't believe so. It's also
Right.
been a while.
That's what I thought.
Well, it becomes his personal mission after they don't have that rendezvous, where he's like, oh, now it has to be Tommy because now he's the only connection to the Fireflies.
Yes, that's later.
That's later though.
So my point being here, right? That like
I think they're just doing
when
more
we
Tommy
start
stuff
it was never from the get-go.
When we start with Joel is in his own bubble. Look out for me and mine.
Yeah.
That are in my immediate bubble. My point being, like, the Joel we meet at the beginning of the game feels like kind of F Tommy. Tommy made his call, and I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna think about him. I'm focused on me now. That's who I am. It's a layer of how Joel is, frankly, a little bit of a shitty person, and how that's carried over from who he was even before all of this happened into who he is at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying like the show is doomed because of this decision. What I am saying is I am teetering on that edge of I'm nervous about us making Joel a little too heroic, because Joel has to be a selfish dick.
Yeah.
For the whole thing to land. And I do think this is a little bit of a, but he's a pretty good guy because like his main focus is that he's doing all this to get to his brother. Every shitty thing we see him do in the new world when we start the story post 20 years later is because he's worried about his brother.
I 100% hear that. I don't think this is gonna sound weird. I don't think it's almost like an obligation because it's family. Him looking for his brother because his brother's missing. I guess that's altruistic, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's still not a shitty person, a bad person.
Yes, we're one episode in.
Yeah.
So it's too.
He throws Ellie against the wall.
It's too early to tell. Absolutely,
Yeah.
There are still shades. Like, don't get me wrong. I see Joel.
Yeah,
I see Joel in the performance.
Child burner.
Joel is here. I get it.
Jesus, Joel.
It's a fear of like, how are we going to, what's the lens we're going to be looking at? Because it is changing. Joel is not us anymore. This is not based on our decisions, and our morality no longer factors in. Part of the reason why the Last of Us game is so effective is because
we're the ones doing it.
You have the power to decide how you handle certain engagements.
Yeah.
And like, there is an argument to be made of like, you can play The Last of Us and not kill people.
Most people, yeah.
Yeah, like you can to an extent not murder a lot of people. It's a choice. It's a choice of violence.
It's true.
And that choice doesn't exist now. This is a Joel as a character, not as a representation of our effect on him.
Yeah, the end of this episode ends with Joel murdering someone with his fists.
Yes.
So I think that's a good indication that like I don't think they're gonna hold back. And again, like the crux of the story is Ellie and Joel together and how she rubs the edges off of him and makes him a nicer, sweeter person.
Yeah.
So like I feel you. I don't know how much more you would want to do in a first episode. That's just like, man, this guy's like I know he kind of sucks already. Like, I don't know if you need to like
see. This is what I mean is like
beat us over the head with.
But I think we're doing too much to swing him towards the other direction already.
He's born children. He has no soul. That's.
But that's merely me mentioning on the thing that I was most nervous about going into the show and saying like, well, I'm not assuaged yet.
Yeah.
I'm still a little fearful, and I think it'll be a great adaptation, even if it does that. I want to be clear. Like, I think you probably can do heroic.
We know the ending is still the ending,
right?
So, like, no matter how good they make him, that ending still happens.
Yeah.
So no matter how redeemed he might get, he still, without spoilers, he still does some stuff in the end. So, like, I don't think we have to worry. You know, I wouldn't. You know, so far. What do you think, Phai?
I don't think so too. I do want to remark on the point of Joel's behavior, you know, in the first game, being, I guess, a moral choice with the player. I still think Joel is who he is, but with the introduction of Ellie, it then becomes a choice of how he wants to conduct himself in front of her, you know. And then, you know, that's where the player comes in. It's like, I'm just going to shoot everybody because it's all about survival. Or, you know what? just move along, save your ammo. We need it for clickers. That kind of like it never felt like a morality choice. It just felt more like a choice of necessity with resources.
Sure. It's also it's unfortunately also like the thing of like it's also a video game where you have to do stuff.
Right.
So like unless it's a game where you're just talking, like you gotta kill some zombies, kill some people. That's what you do in a video game,
Pointedly, this is not Last of Us was not the first game to give you like, hey, think about the violence you're inflicting on NPCs and human innocent characters or human beings. But it was one that presented that as a template of you have an option of gameplay style. I mean, this was something like back when The Last of Us came out, like people would talk about like doing runs where they tried not to kill as few people as possible and like make it part of a challenge. But so a concept of thinking about it does come into play. And certainly like, I think that's not to get super spoilery and we won't, but like that's also reflected in Last of Us Part 2. Clearly like how the characters interact with the concept of violence is a part of the game's DNA. So I think it is part of the show's DNA too. And the thing is like going back to what Phai just said about his relationship with Ellie, that's still like what I want to see is I still want to see that fed through a selfish lens. Ellie's perspective on him is only important because he's deciding to make her his daughter in his brain. Like it's still driven by a selfishness. He's trying to escape into his own past through Ellie.
Yeah. And we do see in the trailer, she's like, so what am I to you? And he says, you're cargo. So like there is still going to be that. Like we still have like 9 hours of like terrible things happen to so many people. Speaking of terrible people, I'm just kidding. Tess. Let's talk about Tess real quick. Anna Torv. She's great. Y'all watch Fringe? Y'all watch Mindhunter on Netflix? That's a show that needs more seasons. Tess was my favorite character from the first game because I just thought she was really tough and she really left an impact. And I really like where her story goes. And I don't want to say anymore because I gotta remember.
Yeah,
this is another medium,
right?
But I love
episode
how much
1.
I love how much that. Because The Last of Us is like a 12-hour, like a 10-12-hour game, and half of that is like combat. Like there's not going to be barely any. There's going to be some fighting, but there's not going to be as much combat in this TV show, right? So that's all got to be juiced up with like narrative and dialogue and people talking. So like getting so much more Joel, getting so much more Tess. I love her in her introduction scene where like she gets her ass beat and she gets stuff stolen from her and she's like, let's just pretend this never happened, except of course I'm gonna get Joel to kick your ass. Like I love that. And like she controls Joel and I believe that. She's like, he works for me, like I'm the boss. I'm like, I believe that. That dude just likes to work and keep his nose down. She's the brains of the operation.
I do really like that as an introduction scene. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's in just the television medium, it's just very refreshing.
Yeah.
Comic book G-Man's here in the comments real quick.
Last
of Us, so good so far. So hope they can keep the momentum. So do we.
Oh yeah, baby.
Really happy with it so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a good introduction because it felt like something like just different from what you get in general on television with that interaction. Like what's the deal going to be here? Like, are you going to kill me? Because if you're not going to kill me, what are we doing?
And what are we even doing? Yeah. And it's also fun because like, again, people who've played the game so far, it's been pretty 1-to-1, like besides like, additional, like, oh, there's like they add their stuff, but like it's pretty 1-to-1 of like, oh, I know this. But then there's like a big change where like the stuff with Robert goes completely different in the game. Because I remember in the game, Tess just walks up to him, starts talking to him, and then shoots a dude in the head.
Right.
And then a firefight happens. And I'm like, oh my God. That's what I was like, Tess, you're so crazy.
Because you have a whole different like, that's a whole gameplay mission mechanic. That's like the meat of your time in Boston as far as gameplay.
Yeah.
And you just didn't need that here because the story's not really there for that beat in the like that when that happens in the game. It's just kind of giving you a thing to do before we move out of Boston. And I think that they made a wise choice in how they lace that together into getting us straight to Joel with Ellie in the place where we need them to be, and let's just move it to the next important beat because that was not an important beat.
The thing I really like about how this movie length episode of a television show is introducing all of his characters separately, and then they all end up on the quest together basically. Like Ellie, she's just on her own. I don't remember how we meet Ellie in the first game, but is it the same way where she's locked up with Marlene? I don't remember that.
Marlene
no.
Not locked up with Marlene. Go ahead, Phai.
Ellie was. We first see her when she's about to attack Joel, which we do see in the show.
Okay, so
but we don't know what happened to her before that, though we kind of get a hint that she might have run to the Fireflies from the game. Well, I mean, it's not. I should stop talking about that. That's kind of a spoiler for a potential future episode. Anyways, it was implied that in the game that Marlene at least was closer to Ellie as opposed to her just being locked up and Marlene going, "Okay, we found you. Now we need to get you out of here."
I always love like disparate threads joining together. I think that's always fun. Right. We're kind of bouncing around character stuff, but like, should we talk about like the pre stuff, and
just
then the
as
stuff?
Comic Book G-Man pointed out, like the crushing of the beginning, like absolutely. I think they made a very smart decision to give us like a focus story on his daughter.
A 30-minute, like double the length. The
whole bit of her, and they threw me for a moment. I was like, "Wait, what are we doing?" Where she's going in and she's stealing the money and she's stealing the watch.
Yeah,
and I was like, is she like being a bad kid?
Yeah.
A good kid? I don't know. And then you quickly learn like what, like that was a good way not only to orient her in the story. God, like one of my favorite bits was when she's in the classroom and the thing is reflecting on her, and you just see like the person like slightly twitching to just give you like that very, very small early sign of what's to come.
Oh my gosh! Like every scene, like the creepiness amps up by like 5%. 5%.
It reminds me of Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And the little like pieces building together.
Yeah, definitely.
World crumbling around you, but you're not noticing the pieces until it's all happening at once in an avalanche. Right. And all like just to get this out of the way, have you all heard the theory about the wheat products and the bread?
Yeah, the flour. Yeah. So this is it's all but confirmed because the games mention like a food poisoning, like a food thing happening. So they mentioned Jakarta, Indonesia. That is the worldwide distribution of flour in the world. The old lady was eating biscuits, which have flour. He didn't bring pancake mix. He didn't get a cake. He's on the Atkins diet. All these things that are missing them involving flour. So like flour fungal infestation taking over the world is pretty cool, especially with that 1968 opening of like what
I wanted to touch. So the prologue to the prologue
that
oh my god
with Jonathan
from things we didn't ask for but we're happy to have.
For 5 minutes I'll take it.
I think that was very, very smart. Because a video game audience is more willing to just kind of be thrust into this world and say like, yeah, fungi were the cause, and you're like, yeah, all right. I mean, video game people who are going to go play this game, they're more ready to just kind of accept that without question.
Yes.
A massive TV audience, a little less so. They kind of need a little bit more hand-holding before you get into this dude is sprouting mushrooms on the wall.
Yeah, if they don't look like
this person is eating a person and it doesn't look like the usual zombie stuff. There's little frills coming out of the mouth and everything. And so like when you get that, like you gotta answer that question early, because otherwise if you don't have that set up, if you don't have the fungi set up, then the first time that they see the old woman feasting on the Adlers, then they're gonna. My brain would immediately jump to aliens.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
like at the sight of that, like that tendril thing, I'd be like, oh, some alien shit is going on. So I get why you put the fungi thing there, and I think that was really, really smart.
Yeah.
And it's a good tone setter too.
Yeah. Speaking of tendrils, I initially, and I had no reason to, because like the director explained why, but I initially freaked out when I heard that this show was not going to have any spore stuff in it. And I was like, that's like half that game is like them dealing with spores and like hiding and like being like in crawl spaces. And to his credit, like the director of the game, Neil Druckmann, he's like, well, first I wanted tendrils to be in the game, and we X'd it out for whatever, for a gameplay reason. But two, if you think about it, they're wearing gas masks the entire time, and we didn't want half our show to be all of our actors wearing gas masks the entire time. And that makes actually a lot of sense. And if it's a zombie infestation world where everything's to shit, you can still panic and be freaked out, in crawl spaces without a gas mask on, which is totally fair. And like once the first episode happened, I'm like, you know what? I don't even need sports. I get it. Adaptation, hands off. I'm happy.
I think I'd still like. I don't think you needed to dodge it entirely. I would have been happy with just a single sequence at some point.
Yeah.
Of them walking through like, oh, a lot of them died here or like have grown onto the wall here. So it's just like, let's not risk it.
Maybe
that
like,
kind of thing.
If there's like, maybe there'll be like one section because like I do understand, because like he made a point, like I know this isn't realistic, but like the TV world's a little more realistic. Like if it was spores, then it'd be the entire world, and the entire world would be taken over because spores would be literally in the airstream everywhere.
Right.
So like I'll take it, but I do hope there is like one cool scene, because like I do think that is really scary. It is like a really scary thing to be like, if this thing breaks, like you will die no matter what. And I do think that is scary, but at the same time, I understand not wanting gas masks for 6 hours of your show. I get that. Yeah.
Going back to the John Hannah prologue, I think the other thing about it is that it makes the more human appearing, less clicker zombie encounters feel more sensible.
Yeah.
On reading that, it's like, you know, why do they move the way they move, how they react? It's like they're all just being driven by mushrooms. There's no real good sensible function to it. So like I really like when Joel's carrying his daughter through the building, and the one that popped up and is chasing
like,
him,
"Ah!"
and it just kind of like crashes in
Yeah.
a straight direction. It can't really turn or bank.
That stuntman got paid that day.
Yeah.
He's just crashing in and everything. Yeah.
Those were some pretty unique movements too, just from the stunt actors. Like especially with the grandma, like the neck careening.
It's
Like,
it's
the
it's
rest of the
honestly-
body doesn't move.
It's honestly refreshing, even in comparison to like the video game, because I think what they're doing here is even more so than the first game did, distinguishing these kinds of beings from zombies, like typical zombies. It's creating its own movement,
Because they're
language for them.
technically, I mean, if you want to be like clinical about it, they're not zombies because they're still alive. All these people are alive. Like they're just being taken over. Like that was the whole monologue about like they're keeping them alive. Like they might look like people, but like yeah, these people. I believe, and this is, I know you haven't beaten the second game, but I believe there was like a conversation in the second game where they're talking about like like sometimes like you can hear them talking like they used to remember who they were. Like it's super effed up. It's really scary. And like that thought is even worse. Oh, it's in the trailer. Like does it make you feel any worse that like knowing that they used to be people?
Right.
Like it's awful, because like it's almost worse than zombies because they're still alive. Parasites.
Helpless. Congratulations, you have lost control of your mech meat suit.
yeah.
Poor
meat mech.
Poor Denise when she
Jesus,
pops
Joel.
out. Get inside the
Denise, get in the house. Joel
runs over the Adler. She immediately runs for them, and you know she's done.
Yeah, that granny. Give that granny an Oscar for scariest blurry moment of the year. When she's just
just the open mouth thing happening.
Yeah, like unsettling. The first time I watched that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is awful. No, thank you.
Trust your dogs, people.
Oh yeah, Mercy. Thank God Mercy survived. Mercy, you're too good for us.
Mercy's too smart.
Yeah.
What I think the show is doing really well, just right off the bat with this first episode, is using its economy of time and how it can control the narrative to really emphasize how people feel about the Fireflies, how people feel in the world post all of this happening. I think that all just feels a little bit more fully present and fleshed out than it got to be in the game.
The game, like you're dealing with like Fedra, right? Fedra, Fedra and Fireflies, but like it is very like surface level. Like it's not part of the story whatsoever. Like the Firefly stuff gets more involved as further you go along because of the story. But like the Fedra stuff, like I feel like we got more Fedra stuff in this one episode than the entire game of The Last of Us. And Last of Us 2 is a different story. That's way more militarized stuff. But
sure.
But Last of Us, yeah, like it felt definitely more focused and like really talking about like rebellion, which I didn't feel like was a thing in The Last of Us 1. Like I know they're like trying to fight them, but like it didn't feel like I just watched Andor and I'm like, oh, these guys just watch Andor too. Like that's what I felt like, and I didn't feel that presence in the first game.
Well, and like I think it was a good decision to do a bit like the kid coming in with the cut and keeping them in the chair and telling them the lie and putting them to sleep and then throwing them in the fire. I think that it gets a lot across about what people have been through, and effectively something that I do think is speaking to video game version of Joel as well, how absolutely removed he is from certain things emotionally, compared to other people, even after everything they've been through. Like it's the same person hauling a bunch of bodies, but when it comes to a kid, they can't do it.
Yeah,
but Joel can.
And it's like
not his kid.
And again, like the last scene you see, like he's holding his dead daughter, and then the next scene you see him in, he's throwing a kid into the
and
like
that's kid.
And that's very clearly like this is who this man is now.
Right.
He is heart removed, let's say.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I've done this before. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, he'll take the sewage job. It pays more, right? Whatever pays more. He got an upgrade. He went from selling guns in the first game to now selling drugs in the TV show. So he's getting a little more money, I bet, out of that one. Again, like that security guard was just a nameless dude who he runs into later in the TV show. But that's just a random guy in the game, and it's like every little character can now get a little more screen time, a little some dialogue, some character beats. So like when all these terrible things happen to all of these people, like you care a little bit more. Even the shitty guard, I'm like, oh man, this guy's about to get got.
Right.
Yeah, everyone's a person, at least far as they've been maintaining.
Absolutely,
the guard doing horrible things. Can't sleep at night. He wants some pills.
Yeah.
And doing things like putting Ellie through the tests, just giving that whole perspective on like how they're working down what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were in the know, so we knew what they were doing, but I could tell like my wife was trying to figure it out.
And they still haven't said what the quest is. We just know that Ellie got bit and didn't turn. That's all the audience knows at this point.
Just take him out of the city, go to a rendezvous point.
Yeah, we're taking Ellie somewhere.
Yeah, they hide it. They hide it until the end of the first episode, which is a good reveal.
But I think the audience is smart enough to kind of infer of why she's important and what it could lead to.
You definitely can,
know.
But they're not. But they don't hold your hand through it until the very end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think
for sure.
That's good.
And I think it's going. I hope. Like I have full faith in the show, but I hope it doesn't end up being like a big like reveal twist, because like the seeds are planted here, right? So like I hope it's not going to be like an episode 6, like, and the reason is this is the reason I'm on the quest, and like everyone already knows that kind of.
I'm sure we get it laid out in the next episode.
Yeah. I'm hoping so, because like it shouldn't be made into a big deal. You know what I mean? Like it's the base of the show. Like it's what it is.
I like the plot is get Ellie from point A to point B. The story is Joel dropping his walls.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Wonderwall. Yeah, man. So we got Joel, we got Tess.
Real quick, just Comic Book G-Man. I'm not gonna pull them all up right now because I know we're doing a lot right now. But Comic Book G-Man's got a lot of thoughts on comparisons to Avatar and things like that, and how we interact with our environment and
Mother Nature
plays that out.
Fighting back.
Good stuff to read. Go check that out in the comments.
I love Swamp Thing. I'm all about it, my guy.
I do want to touch on just the little girl, his daughter is very good.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Something we wouldn't skip past this.
Nico
Parker, daughter of Fannie Way Newton.
Yes.
Which once you said
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. Like no dad in that relationship, just mom.
I think that everything about kind of making her the protagonist for the first half of the episode was really good.
Yeah.
And it really worked.
Great for new audiences too.
Yeah, and like if you aren't familiar with the show, if you watch the trailer, you know that it's post-apocalyptic. Mm-hmm. But like I don't think you know what's about to happen in 2003, like when this happens. Like and having like you said, like she is the main character for like half an hour of this show, and I'm like, man, like they made us care about her even more. That's terrible.
So impressive thing for them to do. My roommate and I, she hadn't played the games, but I wanted to show her at least the intro, because that sets the tone. And I rewatched it, cried, then immediately watched the HBO version and cried again.
Yeah. And
that's when I knew, like that's when the trust was cemented.
Yeah. I watched it when it's come out Sunday. I watched it on either Sunday night or Monday, and then I rewatched it with him and the rest of the gang earlier 2 days ago. I don't know how time works.
Last night.
But yeah, and I cried again. So it's just so well made, and that little girl is like, man, she looks like she's dying, and it's really sad. It is really sad, and Pedro Pascal is killing it. Boy howdy, not a dry eye in the audience. And then again, cut to him like a salt and pepper, no soul, on a quest. Man, I'm so excited for the rest of the show. Oh my gosh.
I think they did a really good job capturing the energy of the happenings of it, the when it's beginning that night of the driving through in the truck and everything, as it was in the video game, translating it to the television medium, expanding on it, giving it that kind of same vibe that the opening of Quiet Place Part 2 has. I think they did a good job with that. I think that also I'm recognizing that I'm just in a place where like I kind of want a whole movie that's just that. Like I stand by that. I still kind of want a Quiet Place movie that's day one.
That is, I think literally that's what the next one is.
That's
day
what
one.
That's what I'm hoping for. Is that it's literally the first day.
I literally think it's called a Quiet Place Day One.
I hope so.
Yeah, I agree. I think like that fake one shot is so incredible that ends with the plane explosion.
It has cuts. It does have cuts.
It's a fake one shot.
Yeah,
it's a fake one shot. But it's it feels like, so you know how like some like driving games allow you to press a button and immediate look behind you.
Yeah, it's like
that's what it's like. You had your perspective from the back seat, looking forward and like glancing off at the the point of interest, like the burning barn, and even the road signs. That was like a 1-for-1.
Yeah,
it was very video game informed with that particular sequence.
In that same respect too, certain shots, if I'm not sure if you picked it up, I hope you did, but from the back of the actor, just sort of wandering mid frame, and then the camera just lingers there or follows them, just like a third person camera. And they do it twice in this episode.
Yeah, like when the following Sarah stuff is almost one for one. Besides, like I think you actually see like a nuclear explosion through the window when you're walking around. But like it definitely felt that like this is her walking around like things are spooky. What's happening in this house?
It was particularly when she wandered into the living room where it was just that moment of like, oh, are we in control now? She's not moving. And then she goes for the remote. It was like, oh, okay. I was like PTSD moments of like seamless cutscene to gameplay.
So I will say to your point on that I thought that one that you guys are highlighting is a particularly good one. There's one later on with Joel and Tess.
Yes.
I thought that it did not work for me. It took me out of the show because I was like,
is it the backpack scene?
No, it's like when they're walking away to get on the mission to get Robert for everything. And for that one, it didn't work for me. It's not a long shot, but it was one where I sat there and I'm like, the only reason you make the choice to frame it like this is because this was a video game and it doesn't translate to television.
Sure.
It didn't make sense as a shot for television, whereas other ones had. Like again, the one with Sarah is incorporated very well. That one just wasn't. I was just like, I would have done this in a different place.
Sure.
That's fair. I am still just appreciative that they're making the attempt of like, we know you're kind of familiar with, the imagery. This is for you. But if,
but I
get it. It doesn't translate. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. What I love about it is like Craig Mazin, who's writing the Borderlands movie, which now makes me really excited for that movie, which might be in development hell. But it is still coming out this year, apparently. That dude loves video games. And like this still feels like a video game plot. Like Joel, we got to go get the battery. We got to go do this. Now we got to go to the Fireflies. Now we got to do this thing at Ellie. Like it's still like objective based. Like I'm like you're reading on the screen of like what you do next. And then I bring up the backpack scene because the first time I watched it made me laugh because I'm like, that's what you do in The Last of Us. When you need to do stuff, you go into your backpack and you pull stuff out. And like he didn't have to go onto the ground to pull his flashlight out. They did it on purpose. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, that kind of thing. That kind of thing is good. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. But sorry. Briefly going back to the scene of Tess and Joel. Camera at the back, them walking. It's just the walking exposition moment.
Yeah, the walk and talk, the Gears of War walk and talk.
Yeah. Like that's the thing is that like that, and we'll see how much that happens over the rest of the series and kind of keep track of that. But it just that one in particular just stood out so clearly as like no one who works in film and television would make the choice to frame it this way unless this was based on a video game.
Yeah.
And just because it was doesn't mean this was the right shot for this moment.
Yeah.
And it like it's such a short shot, it really doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But I did notice, and I was like,
Your film
God, could you
work.
imagine an
Yeah.
entire show of just looking at the actors' backs, and then the camera occasionally pans to the front, and then they do that turn?
Yeah, but at least it's faithful to the source material.
At least,
Yeah.
it's a
I think
blessing and a curse.
that's like what we're mentioning is like the backpack moment or the moment with Sarah, like things that are incorporating themselves into the narrative really well, where it feels like, you're not halting the construction of the story to do a bit.
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
working into the flow of it. And that one felt like it was halting to be like, hey, here's a nod to you video game fans. And I was like, move this into a place where it actually naturally belongs.
Yeah.
Because it felt out of place because the rest of the scene around it isn't filmed that way.
Mhm.
So you're like,
Let's hope it's for just the first episode.
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be more incorporations, and hopefully most of them are good.
Yeah.
Out of the ones we talked about, we're 2 out of 3 solid. So
I heard this really weird thing though in episode 2 though, when Tess is like, Joel, you need to reload. I just made that up. I was being stupid.
Could you, could they? You know what? I want it. I kind of want it.
I think listen, if
It'll be
for
funny.
every 5 good ones, I get 1 bad one, I'll take it.
could you imagine
I'll
if they
take
just
it.
went like full blown on the
The raft sequences.
No, oh my god, yeah.
There's a raft sequence in this. I know it. I know there's a raft sequence. But see, here's the thing: there'll only be 1 instead of 17, so
Yeah.
it'll be perfectly paced.
Wait, a what sequence?
the raft like
Where you
having
have to like
move
put
the
Ellie
thing
on a
for
thing
Ellie
because she can't swim.
because she can't swim.
Yeah, you do that.
Raft.
You do that a lot.
Raft. I
Yeah.
kept hearing wrath sequence. I'm like, what?
The wrath of Ellie.
That's the only God that still remains.
The ladder
main
sequences
reason-
are the same. They're
that
the
still
same.
remains the main reason I want to play the new version
Yeah.
of The Last of Us, is because you have the option to remove all of the ladder sequences.
That's a good point. Man, I'm telling you, I was so high on like after watching this, I was like, if that game's cheap enough right now, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
$70.
Yeah, no.
No.
It does. I will say, like, it does.
Just
make me
watch the
want to play
9-hour
first game
4K
again.
cut on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm certain when we get to the end of the season, I'm gonna be like,
Damn.
time to pop in that Last of
Time
Us
to
Part
pop it
1
in.
again. Huh?
I also, man, they're doing very, very slight it's not teasing anything, but their stuff is mentioned from The Last of Us 2 in this. So I am very curious how much stuff that there are, because again, like there's stuff that happens in 2 that happens in 1. We just don't see it. We just didn't see it until it happens in 2. Like it's flashback shit. And I'm very curious. Phai, you've played 2, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious if certain characters are going to show up early in 1 because they're doing the TV thing. It's because it's like one seamless universe instead of they made game 1 and then they thought of this stuff in game 2. Now it all exists for the TV show. I'm curious if characters are going to show up early. They mentioned slavers. That is not a thing in The Last of Us 1. That is a big thing in The Last of Us 2.
I made note of that too.
So like I'm very curious. They have such like, it's like a tree that can just grow and do whatever it wants. It's just like, oh, all these beautiful seeds, and you can pick which ones you want to grow. I hear the Bill episode, which he has like one like standalone like big episode, is like the best of the season, and it's like incredible. And that's a dude who has a small section in the game. So like I'm so excited that they can like, yeah, we'll give Bill an hour. Sure,
they put Frank in for a reason.
Exactly. And Frank, like, who is mentioned, and like you can read a note about Frank, he's like a character now in the show. So now it's going to be even more sad when we meet all these characters and all these things happen. I'm just like, man, like it makes me excited
Because they're
I'm
pulling away the
I'm
queer
torn.
subtext and making it text.
just straight up text. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm both excited but also scared and a little torn because I guess why was potentially a little more effective. I'm not going to say a little more effective. I haven't seen the episode yet, but the whole presentation of that scenario in the game, there was a lot of show don't tell in that, whereas in this one we're going to get a lot of more show, but ultimately tells the
the
realization.
No, I understand. I think with an adaptation, I think you can because it is like a, how do I say this right? It is really nice that it is like, hey, I had this relationship with this guy, and hey, it might have been gay, but it's subtext. It would be really nice for like an adaptation to just be like, no, like this guy was my boyfriend. Like
Right.
we did have a relationship together. And I think for an adaptation where like you are not playing the character of Joel talking to this guy and then reading a note about it, you can just watch the guy that they're talking about. Like it doesn't have to be like a sweet side quest. It could be a full thing and like be meaningful.
I realize we are getting a little bit into the video game spoilers now, but
yeah, I love it.
I was being
Ah,
careful.
sorry,
Sorry.
There's a character that Bill.
I started it.
Yeah.
But yes, but you're right. I'm gonna say because we have the video game, we're gonna have that forever. It's not changing.
We have three versions of it.
It will be nice to see a new expanded story.
Yeah,
I think the other you're totally right, because the point of doing an adaptation is to take liberties to an extent because you are changing the medium, and the original will always exist. And there's good choices and there's bad choices to make in that kind of transition, and different people will feel differently about them. But I think the important thing is that when you're transitioning a video game like The Last of Us over to a television medium or any kind of like filmed medium, it's not actually, more specifically because it's television and not a movie. It's not Joel and Ellie's story anymore.
Oh, yeah,
it's a story of the world of The Last of Us. Now all of the characters are important, which means that not only does Bill need to be fleshed out, but like some of our other characters. If you watched the preview after the first episode, you know that there's some other characters on the horizon. I won't name anyone in particular, but like certain ones who didn't get enough in the game are probably going to be more fleshed out.
He's looking at his Kingdom Hearts poster. Sora's showing up.
But no, I was like trying to look at Joel, but like, what are you looking at, man?
Oh, up there. Yeah. Jesus, Joel.
But certain characters are probably going to be more fleshed out, and I think that's to the benefit of what the medium is. Is that the world will feel more alive because these characters will feel more alive, and the story doesn't just belong to Joel and Ellie anymore.
That's very true. And I like that. I like Marlene, and Marlene is the same actor from the game, which is crazy. That never happens. Like I look at half of the look at all the Disney voice actors and like they can't get their roles, but I'm like, yo man, Naughty Dog, they're just like, nah, just move her over, no big deal. I like Marlene a lot. She's just no nonsense, like, yo, I'm the boss, follow orders. Kim, you got no ear on your head, shut up. I thought that was really, really funny. She just does the side profile look and she's missing an ear. Ridiculous. I love the different threads of like Marlene like 15 years ago, like knew and like put Ellie as a baby into this camp, and then she ran away, and then she meets up with her again. She's like, "Are you my mom? No, I'm not your mom." That was great. I love it. Sorry, the meeting between the battery people and the Fireflies is what springs all of the friends together. And like, I didn't realize that was how all of our friends were going to meet. I thought, they were just going to go like shoot some people. But I'm like, oh no, this is totally different than the game. This is interesting. I like it.
Yeah, I like them kind of coming into the aftermath of it.
Yeah, because I was definitely confused. Like, oh no, like what happened?
For the sake of brevity, it works.
Yes, it really does. It really does. It's a good way to. It was. Of the things that they cover in this first episode, which is a massive first episode, it was the least important thing to spend a bunch of time on. Yeah, you reach a certain point in the story where it's like, now you just got to get us to them on the move. I will say, I'm going to go back to my initial point way at the beginning, talking about Joel. I do think I'm for it in the context of the show. We'll see where we go with it, because I think that we know the ending won't change. I think that ending has to be earned to an extent with the character of Joel. And so I do worry about heroing him up a little too much. He's more tender than we get in the game, just through the context of how we're seeing him with Tess. That's not to say there isn't a tenderness between him and Tess, but it is to say, like, we don't see a sequence like her crawling into the bed with him in the game. We don't see the Pedro Pascal's just good at playing this, and that's a different interpretation, but of his concern for her. Not that that's ill placed, but again, like I run into is Joel just eager to enact violence upon someone, or does Joel care enough that he needs, where is that line? And I think it's the thing to watch out for. I think that is the key thing to watch out for in doing this adaptation is how is Joel translated.
I think from game to Marlene's line of like, I know what you both are capable of for better or worse. I think that is a good indication of like, this is still the Joel who has done some really bad shit.
Yes.
Oh yeah. They're definitely still.
I definitely thought about that. Her crawling into bed with Joel, because like I remember like explicitly from that first game, like it doesn't feel like their relationship. Like on paper they might be in a relationship, but it feels like they're more like business partners who happen to be like male and female. Like, like they might be sleeping with each other, but it doesn't feel like relationship. Feels like we are two broken people in the apocalypse who are using each other basically. Like a good symbiote, not a bad symbiote.
Right.
And then this one, it definitely feels a little more romantic, but at the same time, I still feel that they are business partners more than anything, because they don't kiss and they don't hold hands or anything, but they do. He does care for her more than I would say the first game. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
go
please,
ahead, Sparkz.
please.
Okay, thank you. It's subtle. It's subtly hinted at in the game, and they're being a little bit more, I guess, hey, behind the scenes, what you may not have seen in the game, this probably happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who could blame them?
And it's not like we see them banging. She goes and like spoons him, like, and that's friends do that, right?
It's probably the only bed there.
And none of the things I'm saying here are. I don't mean to say them as negatives on the show. Know. They're not negatives on the show. They are things that I'm probably the most interested in watching in terms of translation, because I think Joel is tricky because Joel is not you anymore. Yeah. And is his own character. But there are certain things about that character that were beyond our control, that were who he was, that do have to carry over. And it'll be interesting to see how they execute upon it. I think another interesting choice, not a bad choice, but an interesting choice, is the decision at the end to do the flashback when he got the gun on him after she stabbed the Fedra guy. And he is saying what he's saying, and it flashes him back to that moment, kind of implying trauma being the trigger for him to viciously beat the man. Yeah. When Joel could have also just viciously beat the man, because Joel's ready to do that regardless. Yeah. But we're being given that. I'm not saying that's a bad choice.
No, yeah. I could be reading it differently, but I feel like it could be a thing of not like, more of like, I wasn't the man that I was supposed to be back then. So like, I have to be that man now to survive. So like he could have killed that military guy earlier, but like he didn't because of his daughter. But now he's just like, I don't have her anymore. So now I am this murderer or something. I don't know.
That it was definitely a trauma response, like you said,
yeah,
Sam.
Okay. I believe that.
Yeah. And I like this. I like it a lot because sure in the game you can easily just say like, no, it's just get the job done, full detach, it's a job. But in this one, he is suddenly in he is in an exact situation he has always been, he doesn't want to be in again.
Oh yeah, because Ellie's there. Yeah, of course. Yeah, now I understand now. Yeah.
But he doesn't know. He for a brief second, like it's not because it's Ellie. He couldn't care less that it's Ellie.
Yeah.
He's just like, never again in this moment. It wasn't for heroics. It was PTSD, and it was still for himself.
Right. The implication of showing the shot for the context of the television show says that for Joel, this man is that man.
Yeah.
To him. Okay. That's like, because we get that shot that we never had in the game. This man is now that man who killed his daughter.
Yeah.
As far as Joel's concerned in this moment of violence. And that's just, it's not a wrong choice, but it is a different context, and it is a different way to play the character to us. And again, like something I'm just going to be watching as the show does, because I do think Joel is the trickiest character to get across, to get us to the ending that we three know we're heading for.
Yeah. I want to talk about that. We're talking about that moment because the director gave an interesting response, and some people are fighting against it. But The Last of Us 2 kind of plays into this, so it's okay. I think
I know what you're talking about because I noted this too.
When Ellie sees Joel beat the shit out of this guy, kill him, the director he described it as Ellie becoming activated. And I personally don't like that word, but it's her basically saying, "Oh, this is someone who will fight for me," and I like that. And I read that, but he described it as like her penchant for violence is now going to be like rewarded with this man. And that might be them trying to do Last of Us 2 baggage really early.
I think they are,
because that game's all about like alien violence. So
I was heading for this point as well because I noticed it when we watched the show.
She does like a weird slide.
Yes, exactly, where she's doing like the violence. And like kind of intrigued by it kind of look, which is a clear direction thing they wanted her to do.
Yeah.
Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal both doing a fantastic job, by the way.
Game of Thrones killing it.
But yes, and then after the show, you hear them talk about that moment, and they very specifically are talking about Ellie being drawn to Joel's violence upon him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is definitely more Ellie later stuff than Ellie in this moment.
This is season 2 Ellie.
This is feeding into who we as the gamers would know she would become, but not necessarily who she was at this moment in time.
Now, again, this makes me really curious to play the remake, because is this something that happens in the remake that we just don't have context for, that we don't know? That this is the game, we just haven't played it yet.
That would be wild. That would be wild if that was true, because like fundamentally changing the way these characters are presented in the original one, that is wild.
Yeah.
To know that, like, you're saying that fundamentally the new part 1 and the original are now 2 different texts. If they did that,
I haven't played it, but like as far as I know, it's still the same. It's still the same. Okay.
It's very pretty cutscenes.
Okay, cool.
And very pretty graphics. It looks gorgeous.
But it is the exact same game.
Yeah, I think there are some quality of life improvements to the gameplay, but in terms of like story, it is
like less ladder puzzles. Yeah, we
fully reskinned. Yeah. Oh god,
I can't swim, Joel.
I can't swim, Joel. I can swim. And then he spent 3 weeks teaching her how to swim. We went through a whole year.
What else are you gonna do in the apocalypse?
I think at a certain point he should.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen once in this game where he has to get her on the friggin' raft, and then he's just teaching her.
One raft sequence.
We
got one ladder sequence already.
I really hope we get our season title cards. I hope we get them.
So Phai, because you played it more recently, I remember it happens for like winter and other things. Is there one that happens early? Because we didn't get one in episode 1. Does one happen early in the game around then? Like the season pop-up thing?
No, they did. Oh shit! They didn't show the seasons. They just showed 20 years later.
Yeah,
because
like winter, like especially in the game, like when winter happens, like that's a game-changing moment.
Yes, it is.
So like I guess it's not super necessary, because like we know winter's happening because we've seen it in the trailers.
I might be misremembering. I might be.
Yeah.
But I think you don't get the first season title card until after
Boston,
we're past Boston.
Okay.
And then there's like a time gap, I think, after certain events happen that I'm not going to say because we're not in spoiler for the game territory.
I also just don't remember.
There's a spoiler for episode 2.
Something I'll look up later, but I really do hope we get them because I think they're lovely.
It would be fall. It would be going into fall.
Yeah, it'd be going into fall.
Okay. I just don't remember if we got one before winter or not. It's been too long.
I think so. I think we're in late summer now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we did get one before winter.
Okay. I wonder if that'll be like.
I know we definitely get one. I just don't remember when it happens in the game.
I wonder if it'll be the start.
Because we do 4 seasons in the original.
It is after after a couple characters' deaths.
Okay. Oh, is it that much after? Is it that much later?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's what I thought. So I think we lose
Tommy.
I think
Tommy
we lose
is
someone.
Tommy is the fall arc.
Wow, yeah.
I think we lose someone specific, and then we're heading into. Yeah.
I definitely remember like the big beats, but like all the smaller ones, I'm like, oh yeah, all that stuff. Really okay. Yeah. Tommy's in this episode. He's not in it a lot, but like Gabriel Luna, who who I haven't seen a lot of stuff that he's done, but he's a great ghostwriter from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so rock on for you, my guy, getting an HBO show.
How good does he sound?
Dude, yeah, he's good. He's that dude's a man.
No, but cool. Like he sounds like Tommy.
Yeah. I wish
Are you there, Joel?
Joel's southern twang, I wish it was a little twangier. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes it's just Pedro, and I'm like, oh, Pedro, you need that drawl. You need more of that drawl.
Yeah, sometimes Pedro comes through.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, that's my man,
which is okay. I think he's trying to like walk a fine line.
He's walking the line.
Well, I don't think he wants to do an impression of Troy Baker's performance.
Well, no, just have a southern. Do what Tommy's. Do what Gabriel Luda's doing.
That's part of it too. Real quick, I'll say hey to a friend of ours, Trinity, in the comments.
Hi,
Trinity.
Hi, Trinity.
Oh yeah,
Belle Ramsey, who is English, British, does a great. So is Nico Parker. All the Brits doing great American accents.
Yeah,
I think Nico's Australian.
Australia. Oh yeah. Anyway, does a great American accent. Didn't know until I heard her.
I swear to Christ, if it's New Zealand,
oh, good eye.
I don't know who Thani Wei's husband is, so I'm not sure.
Some lucky guy. Phai, do you have any final thoughts on this wonderful first episode? Any things we didn't bring up? Any fun facts, gifts? Venmo number,
good
social security number.
I already gave that to somebody else earlier today.
Oh,
no, I'm just excited for what's gonna come next. Now I'm drawing a blank of like if there's anything else in the episode I would love to talk about because you all pretty much touched everything. Gross.
I will say again that I think I really like the Firefly stuff, just like getting across the idea of what they're doing and how it hasn't been working and all that kind of stuff. I think it's just more clearly laid out. I really like Marlene's line of like, what have we got to show for it but graffiti?
No, yeah, it's like if you're fighting a revolution for 20 years, you're not a revolution. It's just spray paint.
I don't remember if this is in the game or not, but it was really well executed here where the guy walks up to Joel when he's standing off to the side and he's like, hey man, you feeling like an outsider? And he's like, I swear if you tell me to look for the light, I'm going to punch you in the jaw.
I definitely don't remember that.
Yeah, that felt like Joel. That sounded like Joel.
Yeah.
You trying to tell jokes to me?
Which is good because I do think it's like feeding more into that idea of like, something that's not as much here as it was at this point in the game of his real standoffishness towards the Firefly concept and how much he resents that Tommy went with them.
Yeah.
And I hope that comes kind of out a little bit more as we go into it, because that sense of like being abandoned or betrayal is an important part of Joel too.
Yeah.
As who he became in this moment post his daughter's death.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in the game, there is no doubt that like Joel felt left behind by his brother.
Ooh, Last of Us left behind.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll pull up Trinity's comment. Did you guys listen to the podcast after the episode? No, I have not yet.
Not yet. I'm actually probably going to tomorrow at work because I forgot that it came out.
Yeah.
Podcast?
I intend to. Yeah, there's an official HBO podcast about making the show.
I think it's like the creators and stuff.
Yeah.
Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl, which is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. If you want another great long first episode that has terrible vibes, watch Chernobyl. That first episode is a banger.
I started it recently. I haven't gotten far enough into it.
Too sad, too spooky.
Thank you, Trinity. We will probably be checking that out before we do our next discussion on the next episode.
Heck yeah.
Infected. Okay, at this point, I think we can talk a little bit about the season to come. And at this point, we will share knowledge we have from the games. So if you don't want to know any of that,
thanks for stopping by.
We'll see y'all later.
This is now video game spoilers. We are going to say things that are going to happen in this show. So please be ready. Ooh. Oh yeah.
He was dead the whole time.
Troy Baker. Yeah, he's doing a lot of press for the show. Good for that guy.
Yeah, Troy Baker hosts the podcast.
Heck
That's really cool. Thanks, Trin.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Mm-hmm. Phai, did you watch the coming in the weeks ahead on The Walking Dead little thing that came after it?
I did. Yes.
So yeah. So the final shot of that teaser is the end of the game. So we know some bullets are going to get spread. We know some people are going to die. Joel is going to be a bad guy still. That's why, again, I'm not super worried about how much they redeem him, because no matter how much you redeem someone, when he does what he does at the end of that game, I
Right.
just like
it's not so much about that as much as like earning that ending. And I think that character has to. He can't be too heroic and get to that point.
I feel you. Sorry,
Like,
I don't feel he's heroic yet.
he's
yeah. We're early in.
Yeah, no, they won't. I trust they're not going to make him a hero. I do understand the fear. They might make him just solely heroic towards Ellie, but for anybody else, he still warms up. Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't know how they're going to treat Sam and
Henry.
Oh crap! I'm blanking on the brother's name.
Henry.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, it wasn't coming through.
No, you're good, bro.
Yeah. Sam and Henry.
I have a feeling it's gonna be the trajectory of the game. It's like he helps people when he needs to get what he needs to help him and Ellie, but like he doesn't care about them and what happens to them. But over time, the shell will wear off and he will get his second daughter, his new daughter. I think all the big points are gonna stay the same. The thing oh my god, I am so excited for Winter. I'm so excited for that scene where Joel goes down and he gets spiked real hard in the belly, because I definitely thought Joel was gonna die the first time I was playing that game. I'm like, oh my god, are they killing Joel right now? Oh my god. I love that.
They could have. They absolutely could have, and I think the audience would have been okay with it.
Real quick, another
as opposed to
Justin in the comments saying spoil everything.
Oh my god, not Justin.
So
Wait, Justin, you're Justin?
Our Justin, friend of the show, Justin. So yeah, this is an interesting situation, Phai, because now that we can spoil stuff from this game, I don't want to spoil stuff from Last of Us 2. But there's some stuff at the end of Last of Us 1 that is incorporated into all of Last of Us 2. And that's where I'm talking about them bringing stuff from 2 into 1, where I think we will see certain characters early, as we did in The Last of Us 2, Phai. I think there's certain characters that I'm talking about. Maybe? Okay, yeah. I have a feeling they will show up, and that'll be a fun thing. Because they've said like, oh, we haven't confirmed a second season, but like this show got like 5 million viewers on its first day. It's like the highest viewed HBO premiere of all time, and it's for a video game adaptation. So like this show's getting 1 million seasons.
You know what? Real quick for anyone who did.
It's gonna get 1 million spin-offs. It's gonna get 1 million.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't touch on? We didn't touch on how great that intro was.
Oh my god!
Oh
man. The Game of Thrones defined the intro. What was fun guy?
Or how
I love it.
Or how well they're incorporating a lot of the game music, which I'm really. I know Phai's really glad that they did. I am too, because part of The Last of Us is the music.
It's the guy is doing the music for the show. It's him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, that's incredible, man.
Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name right now. It's like, geez, something.
It's really incredible that we've had a year. Yeah, the intro is great, Justin. You're right. Intro. It's even though it came out last year, but it is like a calendar year. We've had Cyberpunk come out, and then we've had Last of Us come out, and both of those things have succeeded because not just like the people behind it cared about the source material. The people who were involved in making the source material helped make it. So like with Cyberpunk, like all those people were involved. And with The Last of Us, like Neil Druckmann is one of the writers and showrunners. He's directing episodes of the show. This dude who worked in video games is now co-showrunning the biggest show on TV right now. Right. And that's just something that's never happened.
Yeah.
And that's
Eat
just
your
like
heart out, Hideo Kojima.
Yo, he's got Death Stranding though. He won still. The thing is, like Metal Gear Solid was announced years ago. Oscar Isaac is still set to star from 5 years ago when the announcement was made. And like that movie will never come out. It'll come out when I'm 45, right? But like I can't like Last of Us, like it was almost too easy because it's like it's already a movie. Like I can't. It's like it's just really cool that it's here, and like we know it's a hit. So like we're getting that second game, and they're doing all the Left Behind stuff, and like they're incorporating the comic stuff. Like it's all exciting that it's all happening.
It's all happening. Sparkz.
Definitely, Justin, agree with you about the talk show intro. We talked about that a little earlier. You're definitely going to want to check out our conversation. We went into a whole lot of stuff. I agree with you about being excited about Winter. That's obviously going to be a whole episode dedicated to Bella Ramsey just eating it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think this is shaping up to be very promising. I wasn't too I'm more nervous about the tinier details about making sure that integrity of the core of what worked about the story remains than I am about like the broader strokes. The broader strokes, I was never worried. Like once it was an HBO show, once like the team that was behind it was on it, it was like, this is going to translate well.
Yeah,
you have the source material, you can bring that over. But can you retain what's relevant to retain?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see. You guys brought up Sam and Henry earlier. They're one of my most anticipated appearances for the show because I'm very much hoping that they're more fleshed out than they got to be in the game as the two main diversity characters.
I believe, I don't remember if this was the case in the game, but in the show, I believe the younger brother is using sign language because we see that in the trailer. And I don't believe he's deaf in the game. Is that, Phai, do you remember if he wasn't?
Yeah, there's no kind of like, able-bodiedness to any of their characters.
Yeah, so in the trailer, we see him using sign language. So like, I definitely have a feeling that like that sequence will be its own full episode probably too, because they need to expand all the big parts.
What if they taught each other sign language because you need to be quiet around clickers?
Oh my God, Phai, that's so smart. That's too smart. That is brilliant. Why doesn't everyone know sign language in the apocalypse? Oh my God.
A quiet place. Come on, you mentioned it earlier.
It's on a giant chalkboard. Sound? Question mark? They come out at night. Oh, that's fun. We have fun here.
Justin's here talking about Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, Justin, that's two.
Abby's storyline.
2-3 years away. I can't even. And they said if they were going to do it, they would split it up into 2 seasons to not overstuff it. So that's a 2-year conversation away. I can't even think about that.
They definitely want to give Neil time to finish the 3rd game.
Yeah, he literally said, "I don't want to get Game of Thrones. I don't want like we want the show to run, but like." It's a story that gets told. It's not an open world. It's like it's a story that we tell. Like he doesn't want to do side stories and spin-offs and we're gonna follow this character's story. Like that's not what they're doing here.
He might need for them to do spin-offs if it takes him a long time to develop the 3rd game.
They have the multiplayer game coming.
That's true. They specifically like they're not trying to make a Walking Dead. This is not a 10-season show. Like they are telling the story of the games, and if a 3rd one comes out by the time
minimum 3 to 4 seasons,
there will be a 3rd game. That's not surprising probably anybody in the world. So like in 10 years it'll all be over, and then it'll be back to Uncharted, rebooting Uncharted with Tom Holland again.
Oh my God, I would love a really good adventure Uncharted movie.
What do you mean? One came out? Came out last year, exactly 1 year ago today.
No.
No,
Tom Holland.
That was cosplay. Cosplay at Comic-Con. You get that kid who looks vaguely like the character but doesn't act like him.
Yeah, a Hollywood Boulevard.
Using his parents' money to get the right clothes.
I mean, that's what I would do. Well, I think that's going to be it here.
Yeah, I think for our first episode, we're good. We'll see if we check back in weekly or how this goes.
Yeah, we'll see how schedules work.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode of Fake Nerds Watch. God, how do outros work? We have a mothership show called the Fake Nerd Podcast. It's live every Sunday. I don't know what our topic is this week. Have we even discussed it?
I think we're probably talking about the stuff coming up this year that we're excited for.
Yes, we're hyping up all the cool things coming out this year, all the big movies and all that stuff. So check us out here on the main channel tomorrow or Sunday, whenever the stuff happens. We got so many other shows. We got Fake Nerds Watch. We got Basement Arcade Pause Menu.
Speaking in the video game world, you guys just did a discussion on God of War Ragnarok.
We sure did. We did do a discussion on God of War Ragnarok
on our regular podcast feed and soon on our Pause Menu feed.
That's absolutely true. So if you want one more Sony exclusive video game to talk about, we got one for you. So, Sparkz, where can they find you on the internet if they wanted to find you on the internet?
They can find me at SparkzWitty, SPARKZ Witty. Just being excited about seeing more of The Last of Us. What a way to start off the year.
Jesus, Joel. Remember last year we started with Peacemaker, and then this year it's The Last of Us? Like, what are you starting the year with bangers? Come on, y'all. What is this? Mr. Phai, where can they find you on the internet if you want to be found on the internet?
If I want to be found, you can look up Midnight Sush on Instagram or Phai16, PHAI16. And on TikTok, I am Sugar Daddy Loot Drops, and loot as in the instrument.
I love it. Ryan, I'm at DJ Tony Stark 616 everywhere. Thank you so much for watching this. And hey, y'all, clicking heads and ripping them to shreds. Click, click, click. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
Stay fake nerds.
Stay fake nerds.